6'7" with length for days, Florida State's Devin Vassell may be the best defensive player in the NBA draft. The prototype 3-and-D wing, Vassell is a guy that will be near the top of every lottery team's draft board. Whether he's throwing it down or swatting shots at the rim, Vassell is going to be a fan favorite with his prowess and high IQ on both sides of the floor. One of the highest floors in the draft, Vassell is a lock to be a good player. The question of how high Vassell ends up going will depend on just how much offensive potential NBA front offices project him to have going forward. I usually start these prospect breakdowns with the player's offense, but with Devin Vassell, I'm going to start with his defense because he's a special defender. You see the effort on this possession as he gets blasted by the screen, fights through and recovers, and then uses his quick hands to poke the ball away. This next defensive possession is one of my favorite possessions of any prospect that we've covered. Florida State switches everything, and we see Vassell cover 3 different dudes here. On the final switch, Devin shows off the quick feet, switches stance, and stop the drive, and then he shows the length as he forces the jumper on the one-on-one shot contest. And Vassell regularly check guards full court, as he does on this possession. Similarly to the last possession, we see Vassell guard from small to big on the switch, and then he shows his ability to stay planted on closeouts off the pass. Once the ball handler makes his move, you see Vassell force his man into a tough, awkward contested layup. Next, let's watch how Vassell moves his feet laterally. Devin beats his man to the spot, forcing the stop, and then reads the hesitation, pushing his man almost out of bounds on the drive, and forcing a tough pass that leads to the turnover. And this is straight cookies. Vassell has super quick hands and crazy length, and as we see here, he regularly turns defense into offense. And even if he does get beat off the bounce, he has the length to recover, like he does here, as he uses the length to get the block from behind. As a team defender, Vassell is the most special wing prospect I've ever scouted. Watch it how often he communicates with his teammates, how he constantly has his head on a swivel, how he nails his rotations and gets in deny as the ball swings to the weak side, and then the stun on the drive leading to Carolina having to start over with 8 seconds left on the shot clock. Next, let's watch how quick he reads the game as he sees this entry pass from a mile away, coming over from the weak side to deflect the ball away. Just perfect execution on the stunt here, as Vassell uses those long arms to just rip the ball away and cause the turnover. And my favorite part of Vassell's defensive game is his blocking ability. Just comes over from the weak side to swat that shit. Perfect positioning and rotation here, taking away the baseline and then a perfectly timed block. Look at how high the IQ is here on this block. Has to read the switch so damn quick to get his long arms on this. It's not often a wing can serve as a rim protector. He's just so smart and engaged on this end. He uses every ounce of his abilities. And again, we see how he turns defense into offense as he gets the block and then sprints out ahead to finish on the break. And those long arms don't just lead to blocks. Vassell gets plenty of steals too. Again, just exceptional timing and uses every inch of length to intercept the lob pass. Vassell plays this one perfect. One pass away so he's in deny, then perfectly times a double. Gets big using his length, gets the turnover, and flexes with the euro the other way. Defense to offense. Length is a reoccurring theme here, huh? Just blows up this dribble handoff, and then the hustle play, scraping the knees. And watch how much space Vassell covers on these closeouts. And again, we see the IQ. Head on a swivel, talking out the switch, and those quick twitch reactions to get out to the shooter. One last beautiful closeout. Vassell stunts and then shoots out to the shooter and uses all that length on the contest. Let's see what Vassell's capable of in transition. Surprise, surprise, he's awesome there too. Perfect timing on the jump and gets the block. Next possession, Vassell misses the jumper, but hustles down the court and stretches out for the cornerback-esque interception. And a few minutes later in this tech game, we see the chase down block that Vassell just absolutely freaking swallows up. Vassell's game on the offensive end isn't nearly as advanced, but he plays a smart, efficient game, and it starts with his catch-and-shoot game. He's still high IQ on this end, as we see here, Vassell starts flattening out on the drive, giving a better passing angle, and it leads to the knockdown jumper. Another great relocation here, as Vassell moves from the corner to the wing and knocks down the quick catch and shoot. This shot gives us a solid look at his high release that makes it hard on defenders to get a piece of. The one thing I'm worried about with the high release is if he'll have the NBA range to shoot it when highly contested. Vassell's misses tend to be a little short. For this reason, I can see an NBA team trying to change how far back he initially has the ball over his head. If he can lower the release a bit, it'll also speed up the shot. Now, Vassell has shot over 40% in both of his college seasons from 3, so it's not a huge concern, but the misses sometimes look like a chuck because of that over-the-head catapult. Vassell doesn't have a huge off-the-bounce game, but he did show some flashes. Vassell isn't going to hit you with combo moves like, say, Anthony Edwards, but his length and high release will let him get looks off cleanly as he advances this part of his game. But that off-the-bounce shot creation behind the arc isn't fully there yet, and it doesn't project to be a huge part of his game at the next level. Vassell is a bit more comfortable in that mid-range in-between area. The shot creation is still pretty basic, 1 or 2 dribble pull-ups, but he's effective. Another look at it here, pump fake into a 1 dribble pull-up. Vassell reminds me so much of a more modern version of Luol Deng. This next shot is Vassell's kind of go-to off the bounce. Drive right, spin over the right shoulder into a little step back. We see it again here. If Vassell can develop this consistently at the next level, his offensive ceiling raises big time. But he's still far away from that, as you can see on this possession. When Vassell gets into a spot where he has to do a bit too much dribbling, he gets a little sloppy. Another example here. A lot of time on the clock and just throws up complete junk. Vassell also kind of needs to get confident in his ability when he does make a move. He gets to his little go-to, but kicks it out instead of just rising and shooting. As a finisher, Vassell was a monster, shooting nearly 70% on close twos. He does a great job moving off the ball, and he has soft touch on these little floaters. Because Vassell isn't a big-time shot creator, these off-ball cuts are essential for him in drawing fouls. Again, no crazy dribble moves, but strong, decisive attack. 1-2 dribble and good touch on the floater. Another 1-2 dribble attack on this possession, as Vassell shows off a little range on the floater. Soft touch, soft bounce. Because Vassell is contact averse, this is a part of his game he's gonna have to continue excelling at when the defenders get longer and more athletic. But even on the miss, he doesn't give up, gets the offensive board, and nicely finished with the left hand. This possession is a good example of why Vassell needs to get tough and start drawing contact. Another area where Vassell feasts at the rim is in transition. We saw how he turns defense into offense, but he's just as good at using those long strides to fill lanes. He's not a monster athlete, but he's good, and he makes up for it with his length. On this possession, we get a little look of Vassell going coast to coast. Looks smooth and comfortable with the ball in his hands, and then smoothly drops in the floater. Now, as a passer, while he's shown flashes in the pick and roll like he does here, it doesn't project to be a big part of his game at the next level. Vassell just doesn't have the vision, and oftentimes it's not the pass, but the missed pass as a playmaker. We freeze it here, showing how he misses the roller. Let's freeze it again, as we see Vassell miss the pop and roll. But again, he showed some flashes. Great patience and touch on this side pick and roll. If he could develop any playmaking skill, he's gonna be big time. But like his shot creation, he's mostly going to stick to more basic playmaking. This is a rare turnover for Vassell, as he averaged less than 1 a game, but it paints a picture of what happens when he tries to make tougher reads. One final turnover where we see him try to do a bit too much. As perhaps the safest player in the draft, Devin Vassell is a guy that should be on every team's board. He could fit in with Steph or Clay on a team like Golden State, or cover for guys like Levine and Kobe White on a rebuilding team like the Bulls. Whoever drafts Vassell is getting a guy who will undoubtedly be a longtime pro.